You made it through part 1 and part 2 of understanding the chronological history of slavery, Jim Crow, and white supremacy. By watching the series, now you better understand slavery, Civil War, Reconstruction, and the backlash. Now comes the final piece, the piece that explains modern America. This is part 3, the final part of the chronological history of slavery, Jim Crow, and white supremacy. In this final video, I'm going to show you how white supremacy transformed again, how it became law through separate but equal, how it spread across the entire nation, North and South, and how fear of black advancement fueled violence and legislation that lasted over a century. We're going to trace the civil rights movement. I'm going to show you how white supremacy ideology didn't disappear, it evolved. And I'm going to explain why in 2026 we're still fighting the same battles. This final part connects everything. It explains your present through understanding your past. Let's finish this. In 1896, the Supreme Court decision in Plessy versus Ferguson gave legal approval to segregation through the doctrine of separate but equal. Although facilities for Black Americans were rarely equal, the ruling provided constitutional justification for segregation across many areas of public life. After this ruling, segregation expanded into nearly every aspect of daily life: schools, hospitals, restaurants, parks, public transportation, bathrooms, water fountains, cemeteries, and housing developments. Although Jim Crow is often associated with the South, racial segregation and discrimination were also deeply embedded throughout the North. Northern states generally relied less on explicit segregation laws and more on policies, local practices, and economic systems that produced similar outcomes. Banks, real estate companies, and local governments frequently denied Black families access to certain neighborhoods through practices such as redlining and racially restrictive housing covenants. Many northern cities developed heavily segregated schools because neighborhoods themselves were segregated. Black workers were often restricted to lower-paying jobs and excluded from labor unions and professional opportunities. Black families moving into predominantly white neighborhoods frequently faced harassment, threats, and attacks. Restaurants, theaters, hotels, swimming pools, and recreational facilities in many northern communities either excluded Black Americans or practiced unofficial segregation. As millions of Black Americans moved north during the Great Migration, seeking opportunity and safety, many discovered that racial barriers existed nationwide, even if they operated differently from Southern segregation laws. Jim Crow shaped nearly every aspect of American life for generations. Its effects included widespread educational inequality, limited economic mobility, political disenfranchisement, residential segregation, wealth inequality, unequal access to health care. These systems did not simply separate people by race. They concentrated resources, political power, and opportunity in white communities while limiting access for Black Americans. If you want to understand the brutal mechanics of Jim Crow, how it operated, how it was enforced, and how it shaped every aspect of Black life, read The Destruction of Black Wall Street by Devin M.L. Andrews. This book shows how even Black success and wealth could not protect communities from white violence and Jim Crow terror. Find this book in our Black History Library at the link in the description. This book will show you that Jim Crow was not just about separate but equal. It was about a nation allowing theft, violence, and systemic destruction of Black prosperity. To fully understand America's racial history, one must understand the fear that fueled white supremacy. After centuries of benefiting from slavery and racial hierarchy, many white Americans feared losing economic control, political power, social status, and cultural dominance. This fear often manifested in hostility towards Black advancement. Whenever Black Americans made progress, backlash frequently followed. Examples include the violent backlash against Reconstruction, the destruction of successful Black communities, resistance to school integration, opposition to civil rights legislation, mass incarceration policies, and housing segregation and redlining. Racist stereotypes were repeatedly used to justify inequality. Black Americans were often falsely portrayed as criminal, violent, unintelligent, inferior, and dangerous to society. These stereotypes shaped laws, policing practices, media portrayal, and public policies for generations. The concept of whiteness evolved into more than just skin color. It became connected to legal protection, property ownership, voting rights, economic opportunity, social privilege, and political power. Many poor white Americans were encouraged to identify more with racial privilege than with economic class solidarity. This strategy helped maintain divisions amongst working class Americans while preserving existing power structures. During the 20th century, Black Americans organized massive movements challenging segregation and racial inequality. Leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Thurgood Marshall helped force America to confront the injustice of segregation and discrimination. The Civil Rights Movement led to major legal victories, including Brown versus the Board of Education, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. These laws dismantled many forms of legal segregation and expanded protections for Black Americans. However, systemic inequality did not disappear. Racial disparities continued in housing, education, employment, wealth, healthcare, and criminal justice. Many Americans celebrated the end of segregation while overlooking the deeper economic and structural inequalities left behind by slavery and Jim Crow. The ideology of white superiority adapted rather than disappearing completely. Understand the civil rights movement from the perspective of those who lived it. Read The Death of Innocence by Mamie Tia Mobley. This is the story of a mother's fight for justice after her son Emmett Till was murdered. It shows how grief became activism and how one family's courage sparked a movement. You can find this book in our Black History Library at the link in the description. This is the kind of book that connects the personal to the political. It shows you the human cost of racism and the power of resistance. White superiority ideology did not end with slavery or segregation. It evolved into new forms within modern American society. In contemporary America, racism is often less openly expressed than during the Jim Crow era, but its influence remains deeply embedded within political, economic, and social systems. This ideology can manifest through voter suppression efforts, racial gerrymandering, economic inequality, disparities in policing, educational inequalities, housing discrimination, and historical revisionism. There are ongoing debates throughout America regarding how race and slavery should be taught in schools. Some political movements seek to minimize discussion about slavery, systemic racism, and white supremacy. Critics argue that this creates historical amnesia and prevents honest national reflection. The rise of social media has also amplified extremist ideologies. White nationalist organizations and extremist groups continue operating in America, often using coded language instead of openly racist rhetoric. At the same time, demographic changes within America have intensified fears among some Americans who believe that traditional power structures are shifting. Conversations surrounding immigration, voting rights, policing, diversity initiatives, and education are often connected to broader anxieties about race and political power. Modern racial inequality reflects historical foundations established centuries earlier. The racial wealth gap, disparities in home ownership, unequal school funding, healthcare disparities, unequal access to opportunity, all trace back to generations of exclusion and discrimination. Yet resistance, activism, and progress continue as well. Many Americans continue working towards racial justice, historical truth, equal opportunity, democratic inclusion, and civil rights protections. The struggle over America's identity remains ongoing in 2026. The shaping of America cannot be understood without understanding slavery, race, and the development of white superiority ideology. Africa's involvement in the early slave trade occurred within systems vastly different from the racialized chattel slavery that emerged in the Americas. European colonial powers transformed chattel slavery into a permanent hereditary institution built upon race. The Middle Passage dehumanized millions of Africans before they even arrived in the New World. Chattel slavery then became one of the central economic foundations of America. The benefits of whiteness were institutionalized through law, politics, religion, economics, and culture. Even after slavery formally ended, systems such as Jim Crow preserved racial hierarchy and inequality. Fear of Black advancement fueled backlash throughout American history. That fear shaped segregation, racial violence, discriminatory laws, and continuing disparities. At the same time, Black Americans continuously resisted oppression, fought for freedom, built community, created institutions, and transformed the nation. The story of America is therefore not simply a story of freedom and democracy. It is also a story of contradiction. America declared liberty while practicing slavery. America promoted equality while enforcing racial hierarchy. America expanded democracy while excluding millions of people from its promise. Understanding this history is essential, not to divide Americans, but to understand the nation honestly and completely. The legacies of slavery and white superiority ideology did not disappear into the past. They continue shaping modern conversations about race, citizenship, democracy, power, and equality in 2026. Only by confronting history truthfully can America fully understand itself and continue striving towards the ideas it has long proclaimed. This chronological history from African kingdoms to 2026 is not taught in American schools. Our children and grandchildren are being taught a sanitized version of American history that erases slavery, minimizes Jim Crow, and ignores ongoing systems of inequality. If this comprehensive look at American history moved you in any way, I need you to do something for me right now. First, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss these complete histories that schools refuse to teach. Second, like this video and share it with your family, your community, your friends, and your church. Consider asking your children's school officials why they don't teach this version of American history. Third, leave a comment and answer these questions. 1. What surprised you most about this chronological history? What were you taught differently in school? 2. How does understanding slavery, Jim Crow, and systemic racism change how you see modern America? 3. Why do you think this complete version of American history is not taught in schools? 4th, build your Black History Library Find all the books mentioned in this video. Before the Mayflower, The Half Has Never Been Told, Empire of Cotton, The Destruction of Black Wall Street, and more at the link in the description and pinned comments below. These books are the historical record. They preserve the truth. Don't let your children grow up not knowing this history. Don't let them rewrite America's story. Don't let them erase the role of slavery in building this nation. Don't let them minimize Jim Crow or claim that racism is a thing of the past. Subscribe, share, comment your answers, and build your library with the complete history of America. We'll continue to dive even deeper into the stories they tried to erase. I'll see you at the next video. Take care.